The phone rang just as I sat down with my tea. Unknown number, but the rhythm was familiar. I hesitated, then answered. "Hey, it's me." Lynn's voice burst through the line, bright as always. "I have some news. We're coming home." My hand froze halfway to my lips. Home. The word felt heavy, not comforting. "What do you mean coming home?" I asked. "TU letter 1EA5N lost his job," she said quickly. "Just for a while. We'll stay until things settle." My heartbeat drummed behind my ribs. Behind her cheerful tone was expectation. I could already hear Mom's excitement rising from the living room. I didn't need to tell her. Lynn already had. Mom's laugh filled the air, light and delighted. "Oh, wonderful. It'll be like old times," she said. Old times meant crowded dinners, unpaid bills, endless noise. I stared at the unpaid notice on the counter. 3 days until the mortgage was due. 3 days and another mouth or two to feed. My chest tightened. "Mom," I started, but she was already on the phone with Lynn. Her voice softened the way it never did for me. "Yes, darling, of course. We'll make room." I sat back and listened to plans that didn't include my say. The tea cooled beside me, untouched. Lynn laughed through the receiver, promising to bring gifts. Mom promised her favorite meal. No one asked what I thought. No one ever did. When the call ended, the silence that followed felt louder. Mom turned to me with a glowing smile. "Your sister, been through a lot," she said. "She just needs a place to land for a bit." I wanted to say no. To ask who would pay for groceries, electricity, water. But the words stuck like stones in my throat. Mom looked at me the way she did when she wanted something. That pleading tilt of the head. That guilt hidden behind softness. "You're the strong one, Mai," she said. "Your father would be proud." The same words she always used when she needed to win. I looked away. Outside, wind bent the trees, their branches scraping the window. I wished I could bend that easily. Dinner passed in silence, except for the sound of the television. Mom hummed, already making lists in her head. Guest room sheets. Extra groceries. Electric bill. All invisible lines that traced back to me. Later that night, I sat at my desk, staring at my old savings spreadsheet. Every column neat and controlled, like my life. But there was no formula for exhaustion. No equation for resentment. The phone buzzed again. A message from Lynn. "Can you pick us up from the station on Saturday? Love you, sis." Love you. 2 words used like currency. I typed a reply, then deleted it. Instead, I closed the laptop and turned off the light. Outside, rain began to fall, steady and cold. It sounded like warning. I lay in bed, eyes open, counting backward from 10. It didn't help this time. Nothing did. Saturday arrived with the sound of a horn outside. I opened the door to see Lynn, waving wildly from the car. TU letter 1EA5N followed, dragging 3 matching suitcases across the walkway. Their smiles were bright, polished, rehearsed. "Home sweet home," Lynn shouted, hugging me too tight. I smelled her perfume, expensive and strong. TU letter 1EA5N grinned behind her, already glancing around the house. Mom appeared, wiping her hands on her apron. Her face lit up like sunlight breaking through clouds. "My bobbies are home," she cried, wrapping them both in her arms. I stood there, awkward and small like a guest. Boxes thudded onto the floor. "Where should we put our stuff?" Lynn asked, eyes sweeping the hallway. Mom turned to me without hesitation. "They'll take your room, dear. It's bigger." The words hit harder than I expected. "My room," I managed, voice small. "You can move into the storage room for now," she said gently. Gently, like it was a favor. Lynn smiled, already unzipping her luggage. "Oh my, you don't mind, right? You're barely home anyway." I wanted to scream, but my throat refused to work. Instead, I carried my folded clothes down the hall in silence. Dust clung to the corners of the small room. There was no window, just the smell of old paint. I made the bed, if it could be called a bed, and sat down. Their laughter echoed from the kitchen. Mom fussed over them, her voice high and sweet. It had been years since I heard her that happy. That happiness had nothing to do with me. Later, I found Lynn using my laptop at the table. "Oh, I just needed to check some emails," she said lightly. Her open tabs showed online shopping carts and vacation plans. TU letter 1EA5N was on the couch, feet on the table, scrolling his phone. Mom called from the kitchen. "Mai, could you run to the store? We need more sugar." Her tone made it sound like it was my duty. I went. I always went. When I returned, the house was filled with their voices again. Dinner was a celebration. For them. They talked about their old apartment, their friends, their plans. No one asked about my day. After dishes, Lynn leaned toward Mom, whispering. I caught only pieces. "Maybe we should paint the walls. It's too dull." Mom nodded eagerly. I was thinking the same thing, something brighter. The walls I had painted last year. The ones I'd paid for myself. In my new room, I stared at the ceiling. Laughter drifted through the thin walls. A sound that once meant family now felt like intrusion. My phone buzzed. A message from the bank reminded me of my upcoming payment. Another from work asking if I could cover a shift. I said yes automatically. Extra hours meant extra money. Money meant peace, or at least space to breathe. But lying there, I realized peace had never lived in this house. Not for me. Not anymore. The night was heavy with silence. Rain tapped against the window like a quiet warning. I sat at my desk, scrolling through old emails. One subject line caught my eye. "Opportunity still open, Delat branch." My pulse quickened. It had been 6 months since that message arrived. I'd told them I couldn't move. Mom needed me. Now, staring at the glowing screen, I felt something shift. The job was still posted online. Team leader. Better pay. Company housing. A life that didn't smell like rose air freshener and guilt. I clicked the listing open, reading every line twice. Freedom was just a form to fill out. My reflection stared back from the dark window. She looked tired. But there was something else there too, resolve. From the kitchen, laughter spilled through the door. Lynn's voice was loud and bright. TU letter 1EA5 and S laugh followed. Mom chimed in, happy and full of energy. I wasn't part of that sound. I was the silence between their words. I closed the laptop and went to the storage room. Under the loose floorboard, my fingers found the small envelope. 5 years of careful saving. Cash I'd hidden for emergencies. Dad's old advice echoed in my mind. Always keep something for yourself, Mai, just in case. Maybe this was the case. I packed slowly, folding clothes into neat piles. My heartbeat steadied with each movement. It felt like breathing for the first time in years. At dawn, I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand. My thumb hovered over the number in the email. When the line connected, my voice was calm. "This is Mai. Is the Delat position still available?" A pause. Then a cheerful reply. "Yes, we'd be happy to have you." I exhaled, long and shaky. The air felt lighter already. I spent the rest of the day pretending everything was normal. At dinner, Lynn complained about her husband's job search. Mom promised to help them get back on their feet. The words hit like a trigger. How many times had I heard that phrase? How many times had it meant me staying, paying, fixing? After dishes, I slipped into the kitchen. The envelope of money waited inside my jacket pocket. I looked around the house one last time. The framed photos. The sagging couch. The walls I'd painted, now covered in someone else's plans. This wasn't home anymore. That night, I printed my resignation letter. The printer hummed softly, like a secret shared. In the morning, I left the key on the table beside a note. Mom, I've transferred the bills. I've paid the mortgage. I'm leaving for work. No explanation. No apology. I stepped outside before sunrise. The wind was cold, but I didn't flinch. For the first time, I wasn't walking away. I was walking toward something. My own life. 3 weeks passed before they found me. The knock came just after lunch. Firm, impatient, familiar. When I opened the office door, Mom stood there, tears already in her eyes. Lynn hovered behind her, arms crossed, lips tight. My, how could you leave us like that? Mom cried. The hallway fell silent. My coworkers looked up from their desks. Heat rushed to my face. I didn't leave you with nothing, I said quietly. I left the mortgage paid, the bills covered. That's not enough, Lynn snapped. You abandoned family. A security guard stepped closer, uncertain. I forced a breath. I'm working, Lynn. Please don't do this here. But she kept going, voice rising like sirens. She left our mother with no support. Mom clutched her chest for effect, sighing loudly. The guard asked if everything was okay. I nodded and motioned for them to follow me outside. In the sunlight, their faces looked smaller, weaker. Mom, I left instructions. You chose not to follow them. You sound just like your father, she said, trembling. That's not an insult, I replied. Lynn glared. You've changed. Yes, I said, that's the point. They left in a storm of words I didn't chase. When the door closed behind them, I felt lighter. That night, I drove back to the old house. I needed to see it one last time. The lawn was overgrown, the paint chipped. Through the window, I saw boxes where my furniture used to be. I knocked once. TU letter 1EA5 and answered, startled. Oh my, we weren't expecting you. I need to collect a few things, I said. Inside, the living room was nearly empty. Mom stood near the kitchen, frozen mid-sentence. Her smile was brittle. You took everything, she accused. I took what I paid for, I said evenly. Lynn came in, her voice sharp as glass. What about Dad's insurance money? There should have been plenty. Mom flushed. The kitchen needed repairs. TU letter 1EA5 and needed a car. I let out a quiet laugh that didn't sound like me. 800 million gone in a year. Impressive. TU letter 1EA5 and shifted uncomfortably. Wait, my paid for all this? He asked. His confusion hung in the air like dust. Lynn's face turned red. You think you're better than us? No, I said, just finally separate. I placed a folder on the counter. Receipts, transfers, 5 years of proof. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Please help us figure this out. You always know what to do. That sentence hit harder than any insult. I realized I'd never been the daughter. Just the solution. I'm sorry, I said softly. But I'm done fixing what isn't mine. Lynn's hand caught my sleeve. You can't just walk away. I already did. I stepped outside into the fading light. Behind me, voices tangled in confusion. Ahead, the road stretched wide and open. For the first time, I didn't look back. The weeks after were quiet in a way I'd never known. No voices calling from the next room. No constant demands hidden as concern. I woke with the sunrise, not obligation. My apartment smelled like coffee, not guilt. Work filled my days, but it felt lighter now. Colleagues smiled when they passed my desk. No one asked for money. No one used love as leverage. Then the messages began. Unfamiliar numbers, familiar tone. How could you leave your sick mother? Your sister says you're unstable. Rumors spread faster than truth ever could. I deleted them all, one by one. At night, I sat on the balcony, breathing without fear. It was strange how peace felt so foreign. One morning, a coworker knocked on my door. Marcus, holding a casserole in concern. "Thought you might need a friend," he said simply. We ate together, talking about work, music, small things. No hidden requests, no emotional traps. When he left, the silence that followed was warm. Days turned into weeks, and life began to root itself again. I joined a gym, bought plants, called my therapist. She said healing was slow, but steady. I believed her. Then came the message from Mrs. Han, my old neighbor. "They're telling people you abandoned them," she said. Her voice carried quiet anger. "I told everyone the truth. You carried that house for years." My throat tightened. "Thank you," was all I could say. Later, I found the GoFundMe link. Help the Nguyen family stay afloat. Lynn's smile beamed beside Mom's frail expression. The description read like fiction. "Our sister left us during hardship." I stared at it numb, then forwarded it to a lawyer. 2 words, defamation case. My therapist said not to react with rage. "Boundaries are not cruelty," she reminded me. That night, I sat with Marcus and his wife for dinner. They talked about Thanksgiving plans. "You're coming, right?" Janine asked, firm but kind. I nodded, surprised at how good it felt to be wanted without cost. When I got home, my phone buzzed again. An unknown number. "This is Liam. Just thought you should know. Your mom got a part-time job. She's furious." I stared at the screen. Then I smiled. "Good," I whispered. "It's about time." For the first time, they were standing on their own feet. Even if it was shaky, it was real. I poured a glass of wine and sat by the window. The city hummed outside, indifferent but alive. My life finally belonged to me. Bills were paid. The fridge was full of things I liked. No one sighed when I breathed too loudly. The quiet no longer felt like emptiness. It felt like space. Room for myself. For joy. For rest. I closed my eyes and whispered. This is what freedom sounds like. The call came on a Thursday morning. Lynn's voice trembled through the line. "Mom's in the hospital. You should come." For a long moment, I said nothing. Part of me wanted to hang up. But another part, the old reflex, still answered. "I'll be there this afternoon." The bus ride was quiet, the sky pale and heavy. I carried daisies, the flowers she used to like. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and faint perfume. When I entered the room, Mom looked smaller than I remembered. Her hair was streaked with gray she hadn't dyed. She whispered, eyes wet. "You came." "I did," I said softly, standing near the door. "The doctor says it's just exhaustion." Her hand reached out, trembling. "Since you left, my heart hasn't been right." Guilt rose like a reflex, but I swallowed it down. "I'm sorry you're unwell," I said, steady. The bathroom door opened, and Lynn stepped out. She froze when she saw me. "Oh, you actually came." She smiled, but her eyes stayed sharp. "Did you get my messages? We planned a family meeting." "I'm not staying for a meeting," I replied. Her smile faltered. She reached into her bag and pulled out a photo album. "Maybe you'll remember what family means." Old photos slid into view. Dad teaching us to fish. Mom laughing under sunlight. My throat tightened, but I didn't let it break me. "Family shouldn't mean debt," I said quietly. Lynn's expression hardened. "You changed, You forgot who we are." "No," I said. "I just remembered who I am." The door opened again. Uncle Tam and Aunt Hoa entered, followed by the pastor. They smiled awkwardly, unsure. Lynn began her speech before anyone could sit. "She's cold, distant. She abandoned us." I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. Receipts, payments, mortgage records. I spread them on the table, the sound crisp and final. 5 years of bills, I said, every number in my name. Silence rippled through the room. Uncle Tam adjusted his glasses, eyes widening. "You carried all this alone." I nodded once. Aunt Hoa looked at Mom. Clara, you told us she left you with nothing. Mom's face turned pale. Tears fell, but they looked different this time. Real, maybe. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't realize. The pastor's voice was soft but firm. Truth is the beginning of forgiveness. I gathered the papers, sliding them back into the folder. I don't need forgiveness, I said. Just boundaries. Lynn stepped closer, desperate. What about the next mortgage payment? We can't. I cut her off. No. The word echoed like a door closing. I turned and walked out before anyone could follow. Outside, sunlight hit my face like a new beginning. Each breath felt like reclaiming space. By the time I reached the parking lot, I was smiling. I had finally learned that peace doesn't come from fixing others. It comes from choosing yourself and not apologizing for it. A year later, the morning light filled my kitchen. Steam rose from my cup, calm and unhurried. The garden outside bloomed with quiet color. Every plant grew because I tended it, not because I had to. The house was small, but it was mine. Bills paid, shelves full, silence kind. I checked my phone. No missed calls, no demands. Just a message from Marcus about dinner plans. I smiled, replying yes without hesitation. Then another notification appeared. A cousin asking for help, just until things get better. I typed back slowly. The community center has a fund. They can help you. Her reply never came. I finished my coffee, feeling lighter. Freedom had stopped feeling guilty. It felt natural now. I opened my journal and wrote one line. Family isn't sacrifice, it's balance. Outside, wind brushed against the windows softly. Somewhere, I imagined Mom learning to manage on her own. Maybe she was finally seeing me as more than a resource. Or maybe not. Either way, I was free. And that, I realized, was enough.